Hello, ladies. So I am here. My name is Hannah Murray, and I got asked by Amy specifically to come speak on this empowerment call, which always fills my cup and just kind of gives me the reassurance that what I'm doing is working and I can do this. And doing hard things is my mantra that I tell myself all the time. So it doesn't make sense to give my spiel without giving a little bit of background. So I am 28 years old. I am a married mom of 4. I live in central Minnesota, which I have lived here all my life, but all my family lives in California. And I always ask why I'm still here in the snowy state, but California is expensive. So here we still are. This is actually my 3rd time as a charm with Beachbody, shockingly enough. The first time was back in 2010, right after I had my son. My son's aunt was just randomly getting involved with Beachbody. She got me into a Facebook PIO group, which is Shailene Johnson's program. I got a bag of vanilla Shakeology. I pushed play on the starting workout. I made one shake and said, nope, this is not for me. I do not like this. This is not going to help me. And that's where that stuck until about 2018. I had recently had my 3rd daughter, and me and my husband at the time was only my fiance, and we decided that we were going to go to Vegas and get married. We had decided that a long time ago, when we had actually first met and started talking, was working together at McDonald's, and I was the closer and he was the opener. And I set the store up so well for him that he told the opening manager that if a girl is that good in the kitchen, he wanted to take her to Vegas and marry her. And so I left him a note on the cabinet that said Vegas ? Loved Hannah. He asked me out on a date the next day, and we've been together for 8 years since. So it just seemed fitting that when we talked about marriage with 3 kids already, that it just seemed right to do it in Vegas. And with Vegas being our wedding destination, we wanted to make that a honeymoon thing too. And I wanted to look good in my dress, and I wanted to look good in a swimsuit, and I wanted to look good in my cute little strip outfits. And so I didn't know what else to do. So I looked at my shelf and I saw that I still had my PIO tapes. And I'm like, maybe I should try that Beachbody thing again. So I pulled up my old account and I logged in, and my coach was inactive. And so I hit a request for a random coach. I wound up in Melanie Mitro's downline, which was interesting to say the least. And I had no idea what I was getting into, but they had the opportunity for a discount. And I was like, sure, discounts sound good. And I got set up and I finished my first program ever, which was the 30 days of DVDs. Even though BOD was a thing, I still put my DVDs in the DVD player because I refused to do anything else because I had already spent the money. And I did 30 days with Shailene, and I went, oh my God, I just actually did 30 days of something. Like, that's crazy. I've never in my life completed anything. And so I was like, this is cool. And so my coach was like, well, why don't you share about it? Why don't you talk about it on social media? Why don't you get your friends to do it? And I was like, yeah. So I signed up my husband, I signed up my roommate, I signed up 2 other friends. And all of a sudden they're like, you know, you're like an Emerald coach, right? I'm like, a what? What am I doing? They're like, yeah, you're like doing the things. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't talk on my stories, guys. Like, I was petrified. I had never spoken a single word in my stories. I don't know how I had found the people that I did. I was just kind of wishy-washy, making a cute workout post every once in a while, messaging a friend from high school maybe once or twice a month. I had no idea what I was doing. And so after my wedding, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was already fit for my wedding, wasn't really seeing anything I wanted to do with this anymore. So discontinued my coaching. However, in the process of going through and deleting myself out of these groups and these Beachbody things, in one of the Beachbody Champions trainings that I had watched was this pink-haired girl who went on a tangent about self-love and rocking your IG. And I could not get this girl out of my head to save my life. I wanted to give up everything Beachbody because I was just like, this just isn't for me. I lost weight, it's fine. But something about how this pink-haired girl was showing up and loving herself and just day in and day out. And she talked about just being a better mom. And I was like, how do you make the connection from losing weight to being a better mom? I just didn't understand. But in these years, I just couldn't get myself to not keep following Kyra. And after I had my youngest daughter, and she spent 30 plus days in NICU, which was hard. The hardest part came about 2 months after she came home, when I was all of a sudden out of trauma and I was having to just live with what happened. And I was kind of stuck in this weird postpartum PTSD from NICU where I wasn't sleeping. I was constantly just stressed and convinced that something was going to go wrong with my baby and we were going to be back in the hospital. And I was trying to work and just trying to be this mom and trying to be this wife, but I was just really plagued with these demons that I just didn't know how to get rid of. And I told myself for 2020 that I would give myself grace, that I would remind myself that 2019 was extremely hard, that I did things I didn't know were possible, and that even though we made it, I still had healing to do. And one night Kyra was talking about giving yourself the grace to do better and to know how to show up better. And I just messaged her, I'm like, grace is my 2020 word. I can't feel like this anymore, or I'm going to literally die. If I don't get a way out of this, because everything in my life should be fine, but I don't feel fine. I don't know what to do. And I don't think I'm going to make it through the next life trauma that occurs, because life traumas happen whenever you're least expecting. And I just needed some way to prepare for it. So I reached out and I was like, let's go all in. You're doing the hardest program, which at the time was the prep and the work. I was like, let's go. It's the hardest I have done hard, and nothing can be NICU hard. And that was my statement. Nothing I have done in coaching, nothing I've done in Beachbody, nothing I have done in life is NICU hard. Is it hard to show up and work out? Yes. Is it hard sometimes to find that post on social media? Yes. But is it showing up at 5 a.m. to NICU to meet with your doctors and your surgeons and your daughters on oxygen hard? It's not that hard. And that's the talk that I give myself a lot. And by going all in the work and going in, and I instantly, the first workout I went and I talked on my stories and I tagged Kyra and I messaged her. I'm like, I don't know how I just did that. And it just came naturally. And every time I've went all in with the work, sharing my workout, sharing how I was feeling, people responded to it. And people wanted that because I was showing up for me and I wasn't concentrating on getting the people and getting the team. I just wanted to feel better. And by feeling better, I was showcasing it to other people. Then in the process of showing up, I hit Success Starter, which meant that I got Success Club 3 times in the first 6 months. And with that came the opportunity to be in an upcoming test group for a new program. I had no idea that that test group was going to be for a 9-week Control Freak with Autumn. And at the time I was slipping out of the routines that I had made. I was kind of just coasting after I had done the work. I didn't really like 10 rounds and I just didn't know what the next thing was. So I told myself I was going to go all in with this test group. I was going to get Ultimate Portion Fix. I was going to work on my nutrition. I was going to drink my shake for the first time consistently, which had never happened. And again, in the course of the 9 weeks, because I was showing up for my workouts so hard, I was showing up with my nutrition, I was showing up on social media, all this momentum came with it. And I had people watching. And when I came to the end of the 9 weeks, when I finally got to start kind of showcasing it a little more and getting the hype up because it was coming out, I had so many people reaching out and going, what have you been doing? I've been following. You look amazing. You share every single day. You're so inspiring. I love it. And it was truly because I was taking that time and just going all in this test group. I was showing up for me. I was showing up in my nutrition. And when I do that, I'm not being unauthentic when I'm sharing this stuff, because I am working out. I am making my shake. I am spending more time with my kids. I don't have to force these posts or these stories or feel like I'm showing up in an inauthentic way, because I'm really doing the things. And when I got done with this test group, all of a sudden I had all these really great, amazing opportunities to speak to the West Region team, which is over 3,000 coaches. And I got my first chance to speak in Deidre's team. And I finally felt like a coach. And it just felt real. It didn't feel like some rank or some number or success club. It just felt like I was actually doing the things. And it wasn't because I was doing all these weekly trainings. It wasn't because I caught this certain podcast. It wasn't because of something that I picked up from a training. It was because I showed up in my daily journey so hard that it made it easy to show other people that if they showed up in their journey too, that's what it would be. And every time I know when I'm not committing to a program, because everything starts sliding around. All of a sudden I feel pressured to show up a certain way on social, or I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I feel like I am missing the mark. And it's because at the end of the day, if I am not taking care of myself and I'm not taking the time for my workouts and my personal development, I can't show up and share that with others. And if I'm not doing it, they're not doing it either. And every time I find myself slipping, it's because I know I'm not recommitting to what really works for me. And that's a program, or at least a calendar, because I am a checkmark person. And if I know I'm showing up on this day to do this thing, that's what I'm going to do. And so I know that because due to some health concerns this past 2.5 or so weeks, I haven't been able to do it. It's been really hard to show up on my social media because I'm not doing it. And so what I found is right now, just being transparent and just showing up and really doing the things that I know make me feel better, which is eating better, because even if my health isn't allowing me to work out, nutrition is just as much of a ballgame. And me showcasing that, hey, I have an injury, but I'm not going to let that injury stop me from taking care of myself. Or just because I don't necessarily am working out at 6 a.m., I'm still waking up at that time to take time to pour into me and show up that way. When things even out with my health, I'm still in that routine to be there. And it's always a night and day difference in my health when I know that routine, because when I don't follow it, not only am I not getting the benefits, but I have guilt. And something about the guilt when you're not showing up the way you need to be is almost more paralyzing than if you just weren't showing up at all. And so that is my tidbits and my story, and why I believe that showing up and really committing and going all in is where that difference makes. Message.
Girl, I just love you. You know that. Oh, I'm just obsessed. And all the God winks in your story. And oh my gosh, I'm just meant to be here.
I love it. I think that's the first time I've ever been able to share my story too.
Really?
Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy whenever you remember the people that you've watched and you remember certain things that they've said and it just sticks in the back of your head? I remember Deidre. I remember seeing Deidre live, and I remember something she said, and to this day, I still remember her saying, if you kind of sort of do something, you're going to kind of sort of get results. And it felt like she was like, I was like, oh my God, she's speaking to me. Like, okay, I'll sit up a little bit straighter. But it was years before I decided to go all in. But it's so funny how we find our way through our journey and how messy it is. But it's like when you get there, you're there. It's like you will have arrived. But that's when the hard work starts.
And it's just like knowing, because I mean, like I said, I was following Kyra in 2018. I had to close my business center for 6 months before I could re-sign up with another coach. And so mentally, I had told myself, like a few months later, I'm like, wow, like I can't even sign up with Kyra for 4 more months. And that would have been up in September. I didn't sign up with her until March still, because I just was like, oh, I've tried this. It's not, but it was never her weight loss. It was never anything like about the physical transformation. It was 100% just because you could just tell that she just so authentically loves herself. And I just always was like, what's that like? And I just didn't know. And I just think that it was so funny just because I got confidence from her showing up every single day. And then I found that by showing up every single day, that's what got her to love herself. And it was just something that I never would have realized if I hadn't watched for as long as I did. And I think that sometimes that's kind of the part that it's easy to forget when we're getting all these no's, is like, oh, well, nobody's paying attention. But then how many of us had to sit here and watch our coaches for how long? I watched Kyra for 2 years after that Beachbody Champions coach. Like I had Melanie Mitro as an accessible upline, but it didn't matter. Those trainings, the access, the top coach, there's nothing that I got from there that I don't get from our teams here, and I get more. And I think that it's sometimes easy to think that, oh, well, they're top coaches. Like if I was just under somebody else's team, they would have the secret sauce, and they don't. They really, really don't. And I think that it was Kyra showing that it wasn't that. It was just really the process of showing up to love yourself. And then it was everything that comes on the after side of that. And like, how cool is that you get to concentrate on loving yourself and then show that and let somebody else do that. Like even if you're not doing like and making money and you're not hitting Success Club, you can't tell me that there's not someone that you don't have signed under your stories that still watches every single day. That's not the goal. It's not always signing that person. It's showing up because you don't know how bad they need you. Maybe they really can't afford it right now. Maybe they are just not for them. Maybe they're anti-MLM because their sister had a horrible experience, but you don't know that you showing up every day is giving them the courage to show up every day. And that's the part that keeps me going, even if I don't feel like I'm living up to where I thought I would be as a coach. And even though like I've lost my emerald ring, that doesn't matter because I still get messages in my stories all the time about people telling me that because I show up and because I share this, like they needed that too. And at the end of the day, like what more do you really need to keep going?
Is that where we say mic drop? Because I think that right there. You said it all. I love it. I love your story. I love hearing about your background. I love hearing about how you've tried this multiple times. Like it didn't work the first time, right? And that's just it. It was only when you decided to make a decision and go all in and actually show up for yourself that the difference was made.
Well, and it's like a daily decision too. It's not like a one and done decision. It's the constant decision. And if you feel yourself slipping up, it's the decision to get back up and keep going. Like the wagon didn't just keep going without you. Like you just have to keep getting up and keep trying and doing the thing. Like you missed your shake in your workout. Okay, well then tomorrow, guess what? You're probably not going to because you feel kind of crappy, don't you? Like it's not a one and done decision. It's an always decision. I love watching Amy because I can hear her even though I can't hear her.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I'm just going to be silent.
Hannah, this thing happens when Amy laughs or talks too loud where you can't hear anything she says.
I love it. I love it.
I love her too. I love her energy.
Needs to get on. Zoom needs to get on. Amy,
Your level.
Mother Level Lies level. Okay?
Preach it, girl.
Okay.
Preach it. All right. Does anyone have questions for Hannah before we get off and let her go spend time with her family? Questions. Who's got the questions? Hannah, I appreciate you so much.
I was just gonna say I'm glad I hopped on. I barely got our kiddos to sleep, and like they were still kind of like, you know what? I'm just gonna letting them do whatever. So,
It was life.
Glad you tried. Natalie, I'm starting 9-week on Monday. Hopefully, I have a doctor's appointment for hopeful answers on the following Tuesday. So I've been slowly trying to see if I can do some of the moves this last couple days, and it hasn't been too bad. So hopefully I'm going to start 9-week again on Monday with Kyra's team, and then just hopefully keep going from there.
Love it. Any other questions? No? Hannah, I appreciate
I think
you.
you're freaking amazing. Just so you know. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing.
What's your love
want you to know
language so
that.
we can love you?
Yes.
Words of affirmation and gifts.
Okay.
Keep going,
I
Amy.
got you, Bo.
And then check the message that I sent you, because you should, I hope it's your front door, have something at your front door. So remember those God winks?
Okay, well, if that's not like a weird God wink, like I don't know what is. Like that's weird. I got Amy here with like the words of affirmation. I got Deidre here like, oh, there's a gift at your door. Like,
What is
how do
this?
you? Like I said, like I don't know how you guys like. I don't know how to live without you guys, and it's just weird because I live in Minnesota, so many miles away, and there's just such a power in social media and finding like your people.
So yeah, so that's a question. So how do you feel connected when you're so disconnected? Because I know there's so many of us that are so far away from each other, and you're way far away. Michelle's far away. Like Leah, Natalie, and Deidre are kind of in the same area, and I was, now I'm not. So how do you remedy that? How do you feel connected when you're just so far away from everybody?
By forcing yourself to be connected, because you're as only disconnected as you want to be. And whenever I'm not showing up on morning Zooms, when I'm not showing up on team calls, when I'm not on Tuesday masterminds, when I'm not doing that thing, when I'm not tagging the girls in water challenges, when I'm not tagging or getting tagged in Wednesdays we wear pink, when I'm not showing up for sweaty Saturdays, that's when I feel disconnected. I would be lying if there's not a huge sense of FOMO when we have like, you know, like team events or stuff like that. But I tell myself that if it's going to work out, then it's going to work out. And I know that there's a time and a place. And if I really wanted to, it is a like, what is it? Like, I want to say it's like a 9.5 hour drive if I really wanted to. So it's just the reminders of things like hopefully with COVID, like we have Summit coming up. And with the Success Starter, like I got a free ticket to that. So I tell myself that hopefully, and I have the time approved off of work already. So like, it's just telling yourself that like there will be those events, and that with enough planning, like you can make it work out. But the social media aspect, and just like I said, like tagging in stories and showing up to team calls and our weekly or like morning Zoom calls, like that's really where that's at, because you're only as disconnected as you want to be. And I think that we give each other so many times to feel connected that it's really us if we don't feel it.
How, it's going to lead to another question. How do you keep yourself accountable whenever there's not a test group, not something else there that's pushing you? Maybe you don't, like we're working on like the success partners and things like that, pairing people together. it's a thing in the 12-week year that I've been reading. Accountability is not on somebody else, it's on you. How do you keep yourself accountable and not have to lean on something else to hold yourself accountable? When did that switch happen? Because I know we had talked about it last week too, and like the struggle from going in from the test group into something else. And then I know you're dealing with injury and things like that, and how you are sharing up more authentically as you're following the plan. So what happened with the switch there? How are you keeping yourself accountable?
It is a lot of just self-talk and self-discipline. I'm always telling myself like, hey, what would your best friend tell you right now? So I am not a person that asks for help because I have conversations with myself about how this would go. So I picture like, okay, well, what would Kyra tell me right now? Because I can guess. I don't really necessarily need the reassurance from other people. I need to remind myself that I know what they're going to tell me. And so I will tell myself like, okay, if I'm struggling with this, what would Kyra tell me? Or sometimes I kind of let embarrassment, like you're going to get a message here soon if you don't start showing up. Like they're going to notice that you are not posting and they're going to ask you where you are. And I don't want, and like when I get that message, it's like, oh crap, I'm not doing it. And so I have that kind of pending fear in the back of my head and I let that motivate me. And then honestly, like I'm still struggling with it in real time. And I'm not afraid to say like, I don't have the perfect answer, because the last like probably 3 or 4 weeks since the test group, I've been the most inconsistent I ever have been. And the difference is though with this is I'm still showing up and I'm still doing the things that I know make me feel good. And even if it's not a perfect day, I'm still showing up that day and reminding myself that I am allowed to have these harder seasons where maybe it doesn't look perfect and it looks messy. And when you'd first asked me to do this call, I almost was like, I am not in the spot that I want to be to lead a call like that. But I didn't let it stop me. And I was like, you know what, maybe that's exactly the message that they need to hear, is that right now it's not my best season, but I'm not afraid to come here and still tell you that I know what needs to be done. I know how to do it, and I'm not afraid to make it messy while I try.
Blowing minds left and right. Amy, I loved those questions. Those are phenomenal questions. She's like,
You
I
don't
know.
know. I'm words of affirmation also. So we just like pump each other up all fucking day. Like that's that would be my best friend ever. Like let's just pay each other compliments.
Yeah.
And give each other gifts. And as long as you take hugs, we're gonna be fine.
Physical touch is my third.
That's my two love languages.
We're done. Me and Hannah, we're it. We're just
But that's like,
Same love languages.
but that's like the cool part about like the genuine like friendships you get to form, because these are the people that get to see you kind of like day in, day out, like trying to be your best. And sometimes that's not so pretty.
I see the
And
ugly
it's
parts
having
too.
confidence to keep showing up when it's not so pretty. And I
I
think
for
that
real,
accepting us and like being maybe more transparent about how like sometimes it's hard.
I for real can attest to that. Like, I had to take like a month off of workouts, and it really hit really hard. And it hit my husband really hard in December. And I just this week finally got back to the gym. Still, like this morning I was struggling. Like in the middle of all that, in the beginning, like first 2 weeks before my husband had called it, I had, and mentally like I basically like shut myself down. And whenever I literally had a mental breakdown and cried for like an hour straight. It was a brainstorm. I call it? I don't know. I just had a mental breakdown. I just said hi. I love it. Like that was really it. And so every single one of them, she shut me and said, are you okay? Like, yes, I just can't. Like, 100% this case.
I love you, Michelle.
It was like kind of cracking up, but I heard like most of it. And I just think that like coming back from COVID, it's hard. But just like you said, like you had people that were asking like where you are. And it's because like whether you know it or not, like you're like an integrated part in people's lives, whether you know it or not. And somebody had like said, and to put in perspective, if you have around 20 to 30 followers that are watching your stories every day, that's a classroom. Like you are in speaking to an entire classroom. So maybe it's not hundreds or thousands, but a classroom is impactful. And so
True.
it's like keeping that perspective aspect with it for sure.
I love it. This was amazing. Thank you, Hannah. We are going to let you go for the night. I'm sure we will want to hear back from you soon because that was life. I love you. We'll talk to you later.
Love you girls. Bye.